Hello, welcome back to another video tutorial here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. I got a fun project today that is building a sci-fi city, or it could even be kind of a modern or contemporary city layout where you establish the foundation upon which to place or grow all of your buildings. So this is just a quick project that I created to illustrate the finished project, and I created a little animation to do a flyby. I've even got some boats here in the harbor, so I'll just do a little flyby here. You can see essentially the project that we're going to set out to create. And got kind of an intricate layout and lots of different sized buildings planted on it. Bunch of ships there in the water, swinging around to the back end. Got some land terrains, swinging back around, and there we are. So that's the project that we're going to start off and build today, and we're going to do so here in Illustrator. So let me bring my program. Let's shrink it down a little bit so we can actually see what we're doing. Now you could do exactly what I'm doing here in Hexagon, but the tools that are available here in Illustrator and Corel Draw, pretty much I think any vector-based program, are going to make our job a little bit easier. So on a new layer, I'm just going to come over here to the shape tool and create a rectangle. Now I have smart guides enabled, which will help me align things, but this is going to be pretty crude. It doesn't need to be perfect. And I'm just going to create some long rectangles there. Come up to my select tool. I'll just select all of them. Come over here to Pathfinder and unite all of them. Now they are just one shape. Come back to my rectangle tool. Now essentially all I'm going to be doing is creating a foundation upon which to grow all of my buildings. So I'm just going to create a whole bunch of squares and rectangles here. I'm just going to keep this very basic for the sake of time. And let's draw a little vehicle bridge here. And let's create some more. Actually, I'm going to select that one, delete it, delete, delete, delete. And I will come over to the pin tool. And I created all these shapes, this profile with the shape tool. I'm going to use the pin tool and do the exact same thing, but it allows me to have a little bit more control. I can make 45-degree angles a lot easier without having to add some points. And to keep all of my lines horizontal, vertical, and constrained to 45 degrees, I'm just holding and maintaining pressure down on the shift button to make this. And let's close off that path there. Control A to select everything. Come back over here to Pathfinder and unite everything. Very basic. And let's select a little ellipse. Let's create a little island here. And Now I'm going to presume that if you have CorelDRAW or if you have Illustrator, then you know how the program works and you're able to use the various drawing tools in it. Okay, I like that. Let's take this whole thing and select all of those objects. I'm going to come up here to Object, come down here to Path, and I'm going to offset the path. I'm going to click on Preview, and I want a negative offset. I'm going to try -1 and hit Tab to make that change. I'll put my cursor in here and click the up arrow, no, down. I think I'll go with -2. Now the reason why I'm creating two paths here is for this very reason. If, let me hide these. If I just created a 3D object in this shape here and I grew my ecosystem on it, what would invariably happen is that the buildings would extend over the boundaries or over the edge here of my shape here, and essentially, you know, a quarter or even half of a building would be hanging out over the water, and it wouldn't be very realistic. So I want to create an offset path because the inner path is what I will use to grow my terrain on my ecosystem of buildings on, and that way there'll be just a little bit of space between where the buildings stop and essentially this foundation for the city ends. There will be a little gap here where a little null area where there won't be anything. Okay, so I've got all those paths. I'm just going to come up here and save this, save as, and I want to save it as an Adobe Illustrator, and I'll call it Do Sci-Fi City. Save. Now, to import into Hexagon, it has to be an Illustrator 3 file. I've seen many complaints over the years in various Hexagon forums of people complaining that Hexagon won't import vector files. And I have imported vector files many times, and I've not had a single problem because you have to save it as an Illustrator 3 file. And you can also do the same thing if you're using CorelDRAW. You've got to save it as an Illustrator 3 file, and then you should have no problems, especially if you have the latest update for Hexagon. So let's come into Hexagon. You can open or import, it doesn't matter which, Illustrator. Now I think in Cinema 4D you can import Illustrator 3 and Illustrator 4 files. What the difference between the two are, I don't know. Okay, so there are our curves. We don't need dynamic geometry. All I'm going to do is Control A to select all of them, come up here to Vertex Modeling, Sweep Surface, hit my space bar, and that should do it. It doesn't really matter the height, because if it's too high I can just sink it down into the water. Or if you're creating something like this for a terrain, then just bury it down in the terrain if it's too tall. Alright, first thing I want to do is I want to identify the outside boundary of this object, and it looks like it's this one right here. So I'll call this outside, and I'll hide that one. Now this one is an inside one. Let me enable the outside one again. Enable all of them so I can get a visual here. Okay, this one right here is going to be a cut. I'm going to Boolean cut it out of a solid object. So I'm just going to raise it up real high so it's easy for me to identify that this is going to be an object that I use to Boolean cut. And I will close that off. And let me hide that. Now let me come and try to find another inside one. There we are. Actually, now I'm not going to Boolean cut this one. I'm going to plant my ecosystem on this one. So I definitely want to call this, I'll just call it I for right now because it'll be inside. And as soon as I make any sort of modification to it, the name will change. So I'm not going to waste time giving it a name. Okay, let's see what this one looks like. This one looks good all on its own. Okay. Let me close that off. Make it a solid surface. And this one is going to be Boolean cut. That's right. Outside. Let me select that one. And I will close that one off. Come back to this Boolean, this tall one, and I'm going to Boolean cut it right into my object there. Okay, and I will close that one off. Oops. And I will close this one off. Now, what I need to do is I'm going to stop the video here and we will continue on with a second one and then bring it on into view where we will finish up populating it. So that's it for this first tutorial on creating a sort of a sci-fi city. So thanks for watching here at GeekatPlay Studios. My name's Gary Miller. Have a good day.